Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unapologetics. I am Brently, and this is the podcast where we read a Christian article, in this case, a blog, and explain why it's stupid. I am Brently, and today we got Elliot, secular Rarity, with us. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. You are just everywhere lately.
Yeah, I do. I do bounce around a lot, apparently, and yeah, I have a bunch of people tell me that, and I'm like, no, man, it feels like you're doing a bunch of stuff, and they're like, yeah, but still, man. So I love it. Honestly, I enjoy the crap out of it. So I'm always happy to be here, man.
Hell yeah, yeah. You like doing the call-in shows quite a
Oh
bit? You
yeah.
do the
Oh yeah.
ACA call-in shows, right?
Oh yeah, mostly. And a couple of years ago, when Ethan Michael was still doing YFNA, I would be on the perspective all the time, and that was really where I kind of cut my teeth on a lot of stuff, and so that was just really fun. And yeah, I love hearing different arguments for things that I disagree with, and I love hashing out things with people and trying to come to the best conclusions that we can as people. Sometimes it goes south and people just want to just say mean things, but I've gotten better at trying to cut those down and try to get some better conversation. But
Right.
sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah, try to see them coming before they get there, and
That's right.
nip it in the bud, as it were, if you will, per se. That was pretty good, right? Those were all smart words.
It was. I like them. I think they all sound scientifically. Pretty
Yeah,
sure that's right. I'm pretty sure that's right.
I love just throwing that into a conversation. It just like makes people like stop. You're like, as it were, if you will, per se. And it's like, yeah, no, right, yeah, okay.
Yeah, not entirely sure what you're saying, but yeah, sure. Sounds good.
It gets me. I got it from that. It just always killed me, the one Eddie Murphy stand up, and he's talking about like a guy trying to sue him, and he's like, he's this idiot, but he's just trying to act all like smart in the courtroom. He's like, on the evening in question, per se, Your Honor. He's like, it was funny. But okay, so this one's about public education. That's where we're at now. So this is, I mean, so thinking through public school, 7 questions for Christian parents. Basically, as far as I can tell, this reminds me so much because I was homeschooled, right? And so this lady, she homeschools her kids and seems to be somewhat of a homeschool evangelist, as it were, if you will, per se. They think that that public school is evil and all this type of stuff. That's exactly what I was told, as a
Yeah.
kid. Um, and so, yeah, it seems to be quite like finger waggy at at
Yes.
Christians that are probably not privileged enough to
Yeah.
be able to fucking like buy all the curriculums and keep the kid at your fucking house.
If I could use a Christian term here, she seems to be casting quite a lot of stones.
Oh,
So I just, well,
yeah, seriously.
it's I would say that probably isn't following in the steps of Jesus, but hey, what do I know?
Yeah. I mean, she's like the first, second, and third stones too,
Yeah.
just throwing all. So here we go. This is a blog, by the way. This technically isn't an article, but I feel like it still counts. Because some of the stuff they can say in these, I don't think they'd be able to get away with in an article.
Yeah. If this was like an actual like news publication, yeah, probably not. But
Exactly. So so it says week in and week out, I talk to Christian parents who have chosen to send their children to public school. These are good people. I'm glad that she highlighted that. She was like,
That's
these
cool.
are good people. Okay,
Yeah,
so at least she does
cool.
that in the beginning. All right. Many have given the matter a lot of consideration and really tried to seek God's word. I have no intention of villainizing. What? Villainizing? Is that a word? Is that a thing? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was vilifying.
I guess I get both. Like they kind of mean the same thing. Like is the way I just assume this one is more like specifically making them into a villain.
Okay.
Like I guess where vilify is just like saying bad things. like
Okay.
saying there. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
but
okay. So it could apply to anything, but like, okay. That's really funny. I just never heard that term before. Villainizing. Okay. So I have no intention of villainizing these parents. They truly believe that God has given them the responsibility over their children's education, and they have chosen to delegate the academic portion of that responsibility. They stay involved in what's going on in their children's classroom and textbooks and school district and work hard to give their children a firm foundation in the scriptures. Okay. So now I will also say, here we go, that for every Christian family that stays deeply involved, there's at least one family that doesn't. Let's not
Mhm.
kid ourselves. But I'm not talking to those parents because fuck them. I'm sorry, no,
Right.
but uh, the ones who don't look at their children's textbooks or get to know their children's teachers or go to school board meetings to stay apprised, okay, on the direction of the school or discuss the content of the day's lessons with their children to make sure they correct false worldviews. Jeez.
I know.
Okay.
It's the first 3 paragraphs, and I have to bite my tongue
I know,
because I'm
right?
just like, we're not gonna be able to get through if I just say everything, so I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you finish, Brent.
All right.
But man, do I already have some things.
I know it's so hard with these sometimes. I'm talking to the parents who take their children's education seriously. Wow, that's a fucking slap in
Yeah,
the okay.
because the
Uh,
rest of you don't, by the way.
yeah, yeah. They're just like
Nobody
it's
else. Yeah,
willy nilly with most people. They're just like, I
yeah.
don't care if they know things. What do you?
Hmm.
Who cares? Uh, they want their children to grow strong in faith by countering other worldviews and resisting the temptations of the world. They want their children to face these issues while still at home so that the parents can guide them and train them in how to respond. They want their children to be lights for Christ. To these good parents, I would simply like to offer some food for thought.
Okay, so
Okay.
before we vomit some more on this fucking thought food that she's shoving down our throats, let me say a couple of things. One thing that I think is deeply worth pointing out is a problem that is not just found on the Christian side, the Christian nationalists, the far right. These are the groups that are kind of embodying this and enacting this thought out a bit more. But one of the through lines that she expresses this entire blog post is about how parents should be more heavily involved and influencing in their child's education. And she will in a minute talk about some of the history regarding public education in the United States, but I just really, really desperately would love to get this point across to absolutely everybody who is listening to this right here, right now. You probably don't know jack shit about education. You just genuinely probably have no fucking clue. Shut up. You do not deserve to step into an entire field of academic study with hundreds of thousands of individuals taking part in it. You have no say. You should not have a say. You reading your children's textbook, the only value that comes out of that is you learning all of the great advancements that we have achieved in the time since you went to school, because you genuinely you would fail your child's classes. That's the reason that Jeff Foxworthy had that whole fucking television show. Are you smarter than a fifth grader, you fucking asshat? It's because no, you aren't, because the way that education works is a fucking constant progression forward and a correction of the things that we were wrong about, and a continuing specificity on the knowledge that we do have good reason to accept as true. So the shit you learned 30 years ago not only is just not at all applicable, you would fail so hard going through basic fucking education these days. So let's all of us who don't know anything about education stop trying to guide education. Like, I don't know jack about fixing my goddamn carburetor, and that's why I don't go to a fucking Jiffy Lube and try to tell them how they should be training the next generation. So that's my little rant again, because
Yeah.
I genuinely, when you first sent this to me, man, I was reading it, I was by myself, nobody else around, and I put my fucking phone down and just started like yelling up to the fucking ceiling. And I'm like, why do people keep doing this? It's just everybody wants to look at teachers and just the entire concept of educating another person, and they just go, oh my God, it's so simple.
I
Like,
got
so
this.
easy
Yeah.
to teach math. You just walk up to somebody and you show them one, and you show them another one, and then you go, boom, it's two. And it's
That's
like,
it.
everybody can do that. And it's like, stand in front of a group of your peers. I dare you. Stand in front of a group of your peers and for 30 minutes try to explain a single fucking concept. It is so
Anything.
difficult. It is a difficult thing. Now, try and do that with 12-year-olds.
Oh, good God.
Try and do that with 8-year-olds.
It's like I mean, it's like surgeon level, highly specific, like
Yes.
specialized field like this.
And this is how we should be thinking about education. It shouldn't be in this other category where we just go, well, anybody can do it, And that's a whole nother problem in general. People just want to assume that, oh, you're working at a department store. Oh, you must not be able to get a better job anywhere. Oh, you probably suck. Anybody can do this job. Once again, I challenge any one of you assholes to go stand in a store and watch as thousands of people come in looking for a shirt that doesn't fit them. Like, you do that, and I promise you'll change your tune on that. But education in specifically is one that I hear people regularly demonize in these types of ways, and it is so frustrating, because the amount of work that goes into something as basic and foundational as a school curriculum would just fucking paralyze most people. Yeah. They have no clue. And so that we're already starting off on a really bad note. I don't know if anybody can tell, but I'm already like up to freaking here with this lady. So
right. Yeah, it honestly reminds me of like if they passed legislation that where like you get to, we should have the freedom to do our own surgeries. Okay, right? These elitist assholes over. I can use a scalpel. It's sharp on the one end. I get it. Okay,
I can take Tylenol. Like, who doesn't know how to take Tylenol? Like, come on. So clearly, I should be able to just prescribe all these other medications. Like, yeah, it's just.
Annoying.
It's so difficult, because an individual with this type of thought pattern about this whole field, right? Like, imagine if you were talking with somebody who just felt like this strongly about the entire field of, like, I don't know, air travel. And they were like, nah, man, you should be making your own planes, because like Boeing doesn't know jack about it. They don't know how, they can't make planes, man.
That one crashed. So
they'd be like, what? It would be such a nonsense starter to a conversation that you would just genuinely find it difficult to go anywhere. So, but we will continue with the rest of this, but I really just had to get that out first, because that was the first thing that struck me. And it's that type of rhetoric leads to the same thing that we're seeing across the country right now. And one of those things we're seeing in my state of Tennessee, where the government is actively trying to forego public education and instead offer charter schools, which are supposed to be a combination of public and private education. But all of the public aspect of it is essentially just getting the money from the government. And the private aspect is the fact that they get to do whatever the hell they want with it. And funny enough, the specific one that they're pushing for in Tennessee, oh, it just happens to be, connected to this super incredibly Christian nationalist, anti-CRT, anti-LGBT, anti-genuinely everything good that we've created in the last 100 years. It's that type of organization. So, this type of rhetoric leads to that, which leads to an entire generation that is uneducated or uninterested in the problems of the world today, the problems that affect them, and therefore aren't able to make any meaningful change. If you can keep the next generation stupid, you can do whatever the fuck you want with them. And that is a tactic that we're seeing from people like this. So maybe not her specifically. I don't exactly know what
the politicians she supports,
but absolutely, abso-freaking-lutely. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah, you're
all
absolutely right.
That's my starting rant, Brett. It's only gonna get worse. I promise. It's only gonna get worse.
Oh God, and we got a ways too.
I know. All right, I got this section here. Let's. Are academic subjects neutral? I hear a lot of parents talk about how they can counter the problems of public school with their children by grounding their children in things like creationism, biblical sexuality, conservative history and politics, and the evils of sin. Drugs and fornication often come up here. Y'all are going to hear me take some deep breaths like that. Okay. However, on the whole, parents have no issue with handing their children over to be taught academic subjects by an unbeliever. After all, facts are just facts. I'd like to offer a few considerations here. First, it's no longer necessarily true that facts are facts. Not every teacher and not in every school, but as a top-down institution, government education really does have an anti-God agenda. And this has gotten exponentially, it's in italics, folks, exponentially worse in the last decade, and especially the last 5 years. Public school curricula no longer follows even the problematic postmodern agenda that says the truth is, quote, whatever you want. The program moving forward is that accepted truth, again in quotes, is the opposite of God's word, and believe it or be canceled. Holy fuck. Hang on. One more sentence in this. Yeah. Again, I'm not indicating every school district and certainly not every teacher, but that is the direction the government education system is headed, and that's being played out in larger cities already. The Supreme Court just recently ruled that it is perfectly acceptable for a public school administration or official, employee of any kind, to participate in very large public prayers at school. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the asshole football coach who was actively forcing his students to be involved in prayer in the middle of the football field. And they literally argued in court that this was a private, personal, faith-based initiative, which is 100% legal right now. You, as an administrator paid by the government on your job while on the clock, are allowed to, by yourself or with other consenting adults, allowed to engage in private, personal, religious practices and or rituals. A handful of different things you're legally allowed to do. You want to go and go into your fucking office and light a bunch of candles and dance for 30 minutes. Do whatever the fuck you want. All perfectly legal. What wasn't legal until recently, because the Supreme Court had been taken over by Christian nationalists with a right wing agenda to just overturn any, again, goodness that we've achieved in the last 100 years. But until recently, it wasn't legal for a government employee to force underage individuals to participate in religious ceremonies in public. It is now.
Yeah.
It
Or
is
even
now
coerce.
legal.
They
Yes.
can't even, because that was the thing. Like, he decides who gets to play and who doesn't.
Yes.
He has all that power to be able to I mean, and there's a lot to that. Like, parents will push their kids to be better because they want them to play. Like, they want them on the field. They want all these things. And like, I mean, I wonder how the Supreme Court would have responded had it been a Muslim prayer.
Oh,
Had
they
it
would have.
been,
They would have struck it down. They would have. I totally side with Andrew Seidel on this, where he has repeatedly been beating the drum of, like, we should not be giving any respect to our Supreme Court right now. We genuinely shouldn't be. That's not to say that some of the individuals on there aren't amazing. Like, they absolutely are. We finally, as ridiculous as this is, but finally in 2023, we finally have a black female justice, right? I mean, absolutely ridiculous that it's taken that long, but hey, great. Fucking awesome. We can check off the bare minimum now.
right,
Let's pat ourselves on the back. So nothing against that, right? Nothing against certain individuals. Like Sotomayor was the one in that case with the high school coach who provided photographs in her dissent, because she literally says in her dissent, it will be on record in the libraries of Congress for all fucking history now, that in this case, the Supreme Court literally fabricated facts, flat out made stuff up, and provided proof of that, provided photographic evidence to discredit the line of the course of events that the side for this coach was laying out. They were literally making shit up. The Supreme Court bought it because they didn't care. And so it is a group of people who have an agenda. They have an agenda, and they are trying to move the country in that direction. Even John Roberts, who many people are saying, oh no, he's more blah blah. No, he's more in this blah blah. No, he isn't.
No, it's not. Yeah.
The only thing that John Roberts cares about is maintaining the legitimacy of the court in the people's eye, so that these rulings stand.
Yeah,
that is all he cares about.
He's being tactful. That's it.
Exactly.
He's not, he's a bit more tactful than the other idiots.
He's the guy. He's the guy saying, hey, hang on a second. If we just go out and start slaughtering people in the streets, they'll fight us. But if we invite them into the house and kill them quietly, then we can really take over. Yeah. It's a snake in the grass. And honestly, that's an insult to snakes. Snakes are much less shitty than that. They'll just outright come out and bite you.
Right.
Like, he is purposefully. Anyway, again, another rant. I'm sorry. I'm just again, it's gonna happen more and more.
These are difficult, honestly, to get there.
Yes. It's
all good.
Okay, I got two more in this section. All right. All right. Second, are facts just facts? In light of biblical truth, I don't even know. Even facts are not neutral. Someone chooses which facts are presented. Someone presents those facts a certain way. Someone grades the learned facts and says whether the facts are accepted truth. And someone picked the correct answers. But that everything she just said has nothing to do with what her premise was. It doesn't matter. I just want to say that those two things are connected.
And real quick, look at it. Okay. So right here, it says, in light of biblical truth, right? This is where they get so fucked up, because what they've done is they've taken the ruler and broken it thrown it out, and now they're measuring shit.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because like in light of
Exactly.
biblical truth, even facts are not neutral.
And
We need
that's the reason that in her eyes, quote, facts are not neutral, is because she's coming from the beginning with the framework of there is truth that has already been accomplished. We already got there. We did the hard work of figuring out truth, okay? It's right here. It's this book. It's my book. And if your facts don't adhere to my book, then they are explicitly attacking my book. She's repeated anti-God in this fucking blog already like 2 or 3 times.
yeah.
What
like-
in the living fuck? Who the hell goes out and like lives their lives and thinks like anything to do with plumbing is anti-God? Like, who does that? Who genuinely looks at a toilet flushing or a faucet turning on and just thinks, damn these secularists and these anti-God haters taking over my country and indoctrinating my child? Like, what about like how water moves through a pipe has anything to do with the Bible? What about that? And if you grant something like that, which I just genuinely, maybe I'm naive, I still have hope that the majority of people in the world can agree at least on one thing like that. Like, hey, look, like cutting down trees, like the science of that, like how we do that, you know, like we put a notch on one side so it like falls a certain way, and we like calculate the trajectory of how high the tree is so that nobody's standing on. Like, does any of that have to do with like Jesus? Like, is any of that important?
The cross was made out of a tree.
Yeah,
so...
I mean, I guess, man. Oh, I guess, honestly, but like, it's just, I hope that there are still enough people in the world that can recognize something like that, and then from there, it's like, okay, cool. So like, now we can start to distinguish the things out there that are facts that we accept as true, that maybe disagrees with what you say is true. And again, it's not that they're anti-God, it's just that they are different. That doesn't mean you have to start accepting them or anything, but like, you know, I want to use a fucking court analogy, but the problem is I'm concerned that in the next few years you will be allowed to bring in magic and God into the courts and be like, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that guy took my goat because, you know, magic.
Here we have a globe, but here's also the flat earth model. Now we need to have...
Oh, I know. It's frustrating.
I'm waiting for that one in Florida for all the flat earthers to be like,
Oh,
globes offend me. I'm offended.
Yeah,
Get 'em out.
I don't even, and just real quick on that, one of the things that's really a bummer on that is when the flat earthers are like, oh, your globe model is wrong. And it's like, oh, okay. Do you have a model? And they're like, oh no, not in the slightest. And it's like, right. So how does the earth work? And they're like, I don't really have to answer that. All I have to do is show that there's one problem with the globe model. It's like, okay. I mean, I get what you're saying. I guess technically it's right, but you haven't done that thing. And on top of that, you just don't know it all. So it's like, you know less than I do and are still telling me that this is wrong. It doesn't, it just,
it's
it
like where they poke holes in the official story so that they can make up some reptilian lizard, whatever fucking bullshit. And they're acting like the fact that they poked hole, or they believe they poked holes in the official story, gives them credence for their conclusions.
Right.
And that's these things do not.
No,
that's not how that works.
No, proving that my car is out of gas does not in any way indicate whether or not your car is fueled. It just doesn't.
Exactly.
They just genuinely are completely separate things. And we may get to the place of, yes, okay, cool, you have now shown me my car will not run, but you just don't get to turn around and go, right, so we have to use my car because I've already shown you that it works. It's like, no, you haven't yet. That is a separate step. I am willing to take that offer, but we're not
Right.
there yet, motherfucker.
It's crazy too that is it, like, and it actually is compelling to a lot of people,
Mhm.
and it's just funny how that works because it's just a breakdown in our brain. Like, there's just little
It
things like
is.
that that are breakdowns in our brain that like seem reasonable, but like if you actually think about it in any like in depth at all, like it falls apart
Yeah.
immediately.
And
You
it
know?
and it and it's if you can put it into other scenarios that are more neutral for people. I mean, again, this particular author here apparently does not see just facts as any kind of neutral. But like if I have a box in front of you that you can't see in, and I tell you that there's ice cream inside it, and you just accept that right from the beginning, like truly that's not great. Like, you should be concerned about that. Now, you could argue and say, like, well, I know you, Elliot. Like, come on, man. Like, I know you went out to go buy ice cream. I know that you're not like fucking with me or like lying to me or anything. You've genuinely been, generally been a trustworthy person and so forth. And it's like, yeah, okay, fair. But like, let's add some extra criteria onto this. Okay. So let's say that yeah, I went out to go get ice cream. You know me as a trustworthy person in general. Like, okay, still doesn't really get us to showing that, but all right, we got a little bit better. What if I said to you that inside the box is chocolate ice cream? What if I said that? And then you go, huh, well, how do we know? And my response to how do we know it's chocolate ice cream? Okay, that's my claim now. I say, well, because they were out of strawberry.
Oh well, shit. I mean, if they're out of
Well,
strawberry.
it
That's
must be chocolate, right? That's the only it has to be. No. No. You say to me, "Well, you could have gotten another flavor of ice cream, Elliot." And I go, "No, no, they were out of strawberry. See? Hole in your narrative. Therefore, I have proven to you that it's chocolate in this box." No. That's not how shit works, folks. Like you can now go, "Okay, maybe it's not fucking strawberry." But again, that doesn't show us the chocolate. That doesn't show us that we've gotten to that point yet. And that is what she is trying to do. And she will explain more on that, honestly. Like it does it
She
I
tries. I mean, it's
yeah, I
kind of
know
fast and
it's
loose with the word explain, but okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm being very, very generous, but I know it's surprising to think, but somehow the things she says later on are still worse. Like it's really weird. It is it's frustrating. But
Yeah, yeah, this gets creepy.
okay,
Creepy quick.
okay.
Uh,
One last, and then I'll pass it back. Okay.
all right, cool.
Furthermore, academics are more than just facts because education is not mere information accumulation. As I said here, through each academic discipline, children should be learning how to love God and their neighbor, how to be like Christ in thought, word, and deed. I don't know how you do that while plumbing. I'm sorry. Each book read should teach the child about the human condition, each history lesson about the human plight and sovereign hope of living in a Psalm 2 world, each science lesson about the endless wonder of creation. Can an unbeliever really teach these things? Now, just real quick, I'm not going to go into a full one again, but how the fuck do you teach a lesson about math that teaches the human condition? How the fuck do you do this? I'm sorry, but what are you doing to explain? I guess you can say to somebody like, "Hey, 5 fingers on a hand. People often have 5 fingers, but we have at least fingers. So like, here's 1 finger, here's 2 finger, here's 3 finger. Hooray, math!" But like, what do you that the whole point of like once you get up to higher level math, kind of the whole fucking point of that is like, hey, so this isn't what we're seeing in real life, but this is actually what's going on around us and like kind of, helping us understand how to figure these things out with like a tree falling and like cars moving and stuff. How do you
Yeah.
how do you do that? How do you take a fucking derivative of some equation and try to teach people about the human condition or teach people to be like Christ in their words and deeds while doing a mathematical equation like that. It's just nonsense.
I mean, they'd be like, so 4 people are stuck in masturbating. Okay, they have a hard time with that. That's 4. Now 3 of them actually slept with someone other than their wife. How many people are sinning?
How many people are sinning? Yeah, seriously.
That's the only thing I can think.
Seriously, it doesn't unless you're just going to shoehorn into every single conversation you're having, just these weird little euphemisms and shit, and just like take every single lesson that you're giving and just point it back towards the Bible in some way, some verse or something, which is honestly ridiculous. Like, if anybody in your life talked like that about any subject whatsoever, okay? Like, I enjoy disc golf, okay? I go out, I play, it's fun. I love it. But if every single fucking conversation that I had with somebody, they were like, "Hey man, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm pretty good. It's been nice weather." And they're like, "Yeah, it has actually been. It's not like too hot, but it's definitely not like cold." And I was like, "Yeah, I just constantly have been playing disc golf." And they're like, "Oh, that's really cool, man. Hey, did your mom ever get that job?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, she did actually. So she moved downtown right next to this really good disc golf course that I've been playing at." Like, everyone would fucking hate me because that is insane. That is an insane way to live your life, to just constantly be like, "Hey man, did you see these new water bottles that we just got? Yeah. Did you know that Jesus Christ is the living water? He's often referred to as the water. And this is supposed to," it's like, why? What the hell is wrong with you, man? Get any other hobby in your life. Just do anything else. Like, start woodworking. I don't fucking care. Like, but oh my God.
It's like, it reminds me, I don't know if you ever, there was like that show Friends, and
Mhm.
like when it was, I think it was Phoebe was giving birth. It was like the guy that the doctor that was delivering the baby was also like obsessed with the Fonz. He keeps on, it's like, "Oh, Fonzie dated triplets," and they're just like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yes,
Like, he just keeps on bringing up the Fonz.
That's how you would feel. That is exactly how you would feel. It would be so uncomfortable. It would be like, why is this happening? Like, what is going on? This is so weird, man. Like, why do you keep doing this? Like, imagine if you were hanging over at somebody's house, right? And just like every so often they were just like, "Hey man, I got this nice pool table in the garage." You're like, "Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, it's great." And then like 2 minutes goes by and they're like, "Man, nice, solid blue, brand new felt. Man, it's got these really nice sturdy oak legs, man. It is gorgeous, man. Costs like 5-6K. Man, just got it brought in like last week." Like, the third time that this person says something like that to you, you would just be like, "Hey man, do you want to talk about your pool table? Like,
Yeah,
do you want to go play? We can go play. Do you
sounds
want to go
cool.
like look at it? Like, what's up? Like, what
Okay.
do you want to tell me
Just
about this thing?"
just want to talk about it. I don't
Just
know.
wanted to
I
just
just got it.
mention it.
It's
Yeah.
a pool table that I. It's a.
All right, man. Cool. Cool. Fine. Great.
All right. We can
But
talk about that too. Sure. Okay.
imagine if that's what it was like when actually trying to learn something, right? Like, we've all been there where we're genuinely focused on something and we're trying to understand it. And imagine if in the middle of being like, "All right, so one of the differences between the Allied and the Axis powers in World War II was the structure of who was in charge of who, militarily speaking. By the way, I want to remind you about this pool table that I just got. So it's really nice. It's brand new. Dwight D. Eisenhower was in control of a very particular portion that didn't overlap with other people, which differed from the way that Hitler structured his particular hierarchy.
And Hitler didn't like pool tables,
He
to be
didn't play
honest. He didn't.
pool. We have no record of him playing. You would just how would you learn? It would be impossible. You would just be constantly distracted. And it would just be like, the only thing I got out of this is I need to go play pool. Like, that's the only thing I understand anymore. And that is what she wants, by the way. She
That's yeah.
wants every lesson for children to just go, all right, kids, 1 + 1 = 2. By the way, Jesus.
That's it. Just Jesus.
All right. 2 + 2 = 4. By the way, Jesus. Like, that's what she wants, because she doesn't want the kids thinking about anything else but Jesus. I mean, look, she's got the next fucking section is, shouldn't our children be salt and light? So
Shouldn't our children be salt and light? And I'm going to be honest with it. I never understood the salt and light thing. You know,
it's
they're always
very
talking.
dumb.
They're always talking about it being the salt of the world. I always, of course, my weird brain is always like, is that for us to like flavor the planet for Galactus? Is that why? Are we trying to help them out?
Yes.
you don't want it to be too bland, you know.
Yeah. Also, salt mattered a hell of a lot more in those times than it does now. Like, people just pour out just lots and lots of salt. I have friends who own restaurants and work in kitchens and stuff, and like, yeah, it is not at all nearly as important as it was when this person was writing, you know, that part of the Bible where they make this reference. So, and that's
okay.
and you know, yeah, you would think that like an all-knowing God would recognize that, you know, and would have been like, hey, maybe don't, like, 100 years from now, people aren't, you're gonna be surprised. I know this is crazy, but there's actually a lot of salt out there.
Right.
There's a lot of salt, like, it's everywhere.
Yeah, you need something a bit more like temporally ubiquitous, you know what I mean? So, first, is your child a Christian? Okay, this part I'm just gonna preface it. Like, this freaks me out. This whole part right here.
Yeah.
I've heard so many people give this argument when their children have either, 1, never made a profession of faith, or 2, don't show any evidence of fruit of the Spirit to indicate that the childhood profession is genuine. Okay, a child who is not a Christian cannot be salt and light. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Who is like that with their kid, man?
It's this individual is clearly telling us right here, right now, that she actively indoctrinates her children, that she is in at least a mental capacity is abusing her children. Honestly, that is what she is saying, because she is forcing an underage individual. Yes, technically she has a biological and legal connection to, but she is forcing that individual to express their faith, because what she's saying here is that her children aren't in these boats. You get that, right? She feels comfortable to admonish other parents in the Christian faith because she did it right. She got her children to profess their faith in Christ, and she is getting her children to act out in a particular way that gives her the evidence of the fruit of the Spirit. So that's what she's admitting right here, by the way. I know DCS is not going to be picking up her children anytime soon, you know, but that's what she's saying, is that I raised my kids correctly by doing this to them. That's what, and she's upset that other parents aren't also engaging in that behavior. Who's the groomers? I mean, who's the groomers?
It's like forcing your kid to think a thing. You can't force your kids to think a thing, man. Like, you can hope, you can like teach them a thing and then like hope that that's what they're gonna do. But like, man, if they don't fucking think that it's true, you can't force them to think something's true. You know, it's just not how anything fucking works. It's so frustrating when and then just sit there and be like, oh, but like, even that, like, what you said it, but where's the evidence? Holy fuck, what the hell? How cruel, man.
Because it's not just good enough for the child to express, right, publicly or openly their feelings on something. They have to behave in a way that is specific, because if they don't, she is going to consider it not fruit of the Spirit. And because this is what I hear Christians do all the time, because you'll point to various Christians and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Christian, you told me that if I become Christian, I'll be a good person. But there's this guy who is not a good person and has been Christian his whole life. They're like, oh, well, he wasn't a real Christian. How do we know? No fruit of the Spirit, no evidence of the fruit of the Spirit. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. You're just literally picking and choosing certain behaviors and saying these indicate goodness, these indicate badness completely arbitrarily. And so even if her children profess publicly their faith, even if they are now acting in a good manner by other metrics, if it's not the metrics that she has, then they failed. And then their profession of faith is not true. So it's gross.
Is it? I can't remember. I always forget the difference, but it's either post hoc or ad hoc rationalization. It's like after the fact, after a thing happens, then you go backwards and say, well, then you were never a thing or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you go,
exactly.
It's like shoulda, woulda, coulda after the fact, you know?
Right.
It's like, dude, it's too late now. The thing happened. You're just trying to go back and then attribute like blame and stuff like that, you know, but it's you know, the thing happened already.
That's not a fair way to assess this. You know, you're waiting until you see certain behavior that you deem as problematic just to invalidate everything. And the reason that you're doing that is because you don't want to admit that the criteria that you have for deciding who's a real Christian is bad. Yeah, your criteria is crap. It doesn't work because there are people who supposedly fit your criteria from the beginning, but the moment that they do any particular thing that discredits your criteria, you claim that they were never part of the criteria.
Yeah, it doesn't hold up to any kind of consistency. Like it just falls apart with you. Go, like, what about this one instance over here? And one instance is all it fucking takes.
Yeah.
That's
how you know that the pattern was wrong, is because you go, oh, I think the next thing's going to be a square, and you get it right. And then you get the next one right, and you get 40 other right. And you go, wow, I really understand this pattern. It's going to be a triangle. And then it's not. It's a goddamn circle, and you're
parallelogram. Oh, okay.
Right. We're going into geometry later, folks. So get your textbooks out.
Right.
The unapologetic supplementary material.
That's for all of the rest of you that were homeschooled, you know, trying to help you out. Get you back on track. Oh man. Oh shit, where was I? Okay, so second, Christ is talking to where were we?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so second, Christ is talking to his disciples here, those grown men who had spent so much time under his teaching. He is not talking to multitudes and children in Matthew 5. These are spiritually mature grown-ups. If a mature Christian adult feels called to be a public school teacher as a mission field, wonderful. What? Fuck yeah. All right. Blessed are you when the others revile and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely. The falsely is, you know, the thing that we should be looking at there, on my account. That is not where we send our immature baby Christian children any more than we send them alone into any other kind of persecution.
Okay, so it's not the most important thing that she said in this paragraph. I'm going to get to the other more important thing in a second, but I just want to point this out. And I get it. It's a little like, you know, a little bitchy of me, but she says those grown men who had spent so much time under his teaching. I'm pretty sure Christ was like only teaching for like 2 or 3 years, right? Like that's pretty well accepted in the Bible, like theologically speaking. It's a standard thing that like he was only around for a couple of years actually doing the teachings, right?
Yeah.
So okay. I just
3 years, right?
Yeah. So like I just want to say, like, spent so much time under his teaching. Yeah, like that's the person that you go into some conversation with and you're like, "Oh, yeah, why do you feel so strongly this way?" And they're like, "Well, I've been studying this for forever. Like I've worked in this field for a long time. I've been here for like months." And you're like, "Oh,
Months. Okay.
okay. So
Okay.
you don't, yeah, okay. So you have, yeah. So really not that long of a time. Okay. Like not trying to look, you've been there months. I'm not saying that those months didn't happen. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying like, like, I don't know, 50 years is a bit different, than like months. Like 3 years versus like 300. I just want people to understand the time scale here, right?
Right.
So spent so much time, 3 years. Spent so much time, 3 years or less. I just want to, so whatever,
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
matter. Yeah.
not that much. Yeah, exactly.
Again, not the most important thing. The most important thing
Right.
there, in my opinion, is that Bible quote, because the part of that is important is exactly what you said. Utter the falsely, right?
Right.
We actually have laws for that. They're called libel and slander. Like,
Right.
because you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that, right? But the part that is actually paid attention to by Christians is just the blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you in my name. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the part that they care about. And what's so frustrating about that is the fact that it has an escape hatch built into it from the beginning. And
Right.
this is explicitly designed to stop believing individuals from actually addressing any of the problems with their beliefs. It is a thought stopping technique built into the system so as to give struggling believers an out.
Well, yeah, and she says it right after she basically encourages them to break the fucking law.
Right.
If a mature Christian adult feels called to be a public school teacher as a mission field, the one thing you're not supposed to fucking do, and
Indoctrinating.
it's yeah, exactly. From like public school, that's literally against the law. Go work at a fucking Christian school, okay? That's fine. But like saying you want to work in the public, she makes sure to say public. So then, and then right after she says that, if you break the law, oh, remember they're only you'll be blessed because they're only persecuting you, for talking about Jesus. So it's
And this
God,
is
it's just
why
gross.
the narrative for so long has been one of a persecution complex. This is why the Christian nationalists and the far right in the United States right now hold on to this so strongly, is because they know how powerful that is. They understand that if they can get the masses that agree with them to feel as if they are in danger constantly from other people who are actively wanting to get rid of them, right? Their followers. Well, those followers will become more radicalized. They will become more intense with their rhetoric and their actions. They know that. This is the same fucking tactic that the NRA uses. Like it's not that hard to see. You just literally can watch it go from terrible group and terrible ideology to terrible group and terrible ideology. Do you do you want to know something that high level Taliban officials have told lower level Taliban officials? You know what
Hmm.
they've said?
What?
They've said the West wants to eradicate us because of our beliefs. They said the United States wants to get rid of us. They want to stop our way of life.
Right.
My fucking God, doesn't that sound familiar?
Right.
My God, doesn't that sound familiar? You know who else said shit like that? The Nazis.
Say Hitler.
The Nazis. It's just that's always something, folks, that if you have this moment where you go, oh my gosh, the rhetoric that I'm using is actually copy and paste from the Nazis, you know, from the Taliban. I would say take another look at your rhetoric.
Yeah,
That's a pretty easy one.
when you're the one with all the power complaining about being a victim, there's something going on there. There's you're being lied to and manipulated.
Yes.
That's what's happening.
Yes.
You know, because it's almost like it reminds me of like a big, really big guy or whatever, like getting up in somebody's face and being like, "Hey, motherfucker," you know, getting right up in their face. And the second they're like, "Hey, get out of my face!" Like, oh, hey, look at him. Look at him. He's fighting me. He's trying to fight me. He's trying to fight me here. That's when it's like, but you were doing the thing the whole time. Like you're the aggressor here.
You're the one that's starting all the garbage. And then when other people stand up to defend themselves, you want to claim, oh my gosh, look how you're attacking me. And it's like, that's just not how it works. That's not even the definition of those words. Like, you're just doing it all bad. It's all wrong.
You just want so badly to feel like a victim so that you can, you know, be the fighting for the little guy and then fight, you know, your war or whatever. That's so gross. Parents are commanded to train up their children into discipleship, to point their children to Christ. These discipleship years are a precious gift from God to ground our children in the gospel so that they can, I don't know why that's in it. Okay. Grow up to be salt and light in a dark world. Again, I get the light. I don't get the salt. Like in the dark world, like salt doesn't really do, like, what are you doing with that?
Yeah,
you know, doesn't help you see.
It's just totally ineffective. It's just a really bad like metaphor, honestly.
You're
like,
in a
the
dark,
Bible is just poorly written. It is
right. You're in a dark cave and you're like, "Do you got the flashlight?" And you're like, "No, I brought salt though.
I got salt." Yeah. Oh, just sprinkle a little. That'd be great. Just kind of like blow it in the air like fairy dust or something. You know?
That's awesome. Can children be a witness for Christ? Of course. But the scriptures never send children into a battlefield.
The Pope did.
I think you need to read your book.
Yeah, the Pope did. So
yeah,
there was a whole children's crusade. They called it that. So.
That's right. Oh my God. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yep. We, and this is in italics, they write so weird.
I know. I don't think this person understands what the point of italics and like rhetorical questions and all these other things. Like they're not a good writer. And it's possibly because they weren't really educated, because they got their fucking education at a shitty private Christian school.
Right.
And are educating their children based off of shitty, you know.
Yeah. And dude, she's got a doctorate though. But in nothing. She's got a doctorate in Crazy Town. Like, I was looking it up. It was like, she's got a education in Christ doctorate. It was like a doctorate of education in Christ. I was like, what the fuck is education in Christ?
Right. How do you even take a test on that? Like, what do you do? What knowledge are you demonstrating that you have? I just don't.
The hospitals are gonna like hire you. I'm like, well, you know, she can tell people about Christ. I guess I don't know what she's gonna do here. Like, she's a doctor, though.
She's a doctor. Thank goodness.
That's so funny. We parents are the missionaries. Our children, again in italics, our children are our mission field.
And see, that's just gross.
Weird. Yeah. Why would you call them a mission field? Okay.
It's just gross. That's just a gross view of it. She's one of the people who believes that she has the complete and total authority given to her by God to completely control her children's lives. And this is something that exists even in secular parenting, right? Unfortunately. But for some strange reason, humans in this world fully believe that the little human that they helped make is just theirs. It's not a living creature. It's a fucking object. And we can see this even in our media. Go watch the vast majority of movies or shows that you enjoy and really think about the child characters that are being portrayed, not the actors, the characters themselves, and ask yourself, what is the importance of this character? More often than not, it is a plot device simply for the adults to go about doing their shit. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand why we do that, especially in some shows and movies, right? This is a movie about some guy with a sword cutting off a bunch of people's heads. Like, yeah, children aren't going to be the main focus. Like, I'm not stupid, but like, even in the things that do have more of a child focus, go watch. You will be surprised how often kids really are just treated like objects. And this is because this is a thought that we have. She believes her child is her, quote, mission field. And the reason that she thinks that is because she believes she is allowed to control another human being. And we have accepted this slavery, both in a physical and mental sense, for generations, for no other reason than the simple fact that, well, this is how we did it. This is how my parents were. This is how their parents were. And it's just gross. It literally, in no other circumstance would we allow such things. And yet we do for parents and children. And it's just, it's weird. It's weird and it's gross and it fucks people up. And this is why we're seeing more and more people having problems and becoming adults and having difficulties in engaging with the world around them, is because they're raised in situations like this, unfortunately. So
where your life isn't really your own. You're just a vehicle for your parents to feel like they did a good job.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. I know a guy, great dude, who literally was told by his parents from like the age of 5, the whole family rests on your shoulders. We had you as a child specifically so that you would become very well educated and very successful financially and be able to lift the entire family out of the circumstances that we're currently in. That they said that to him. And how do you live your fucking life like that? Knowing full and well that your life is already spoken for. No matter what you desire, at the end of the day, your choices are completely meaningless because other people have already decided for you. Like, yeah, it's just, now, thankfully he's, in a better place now for sure, not in that situation, but still, it's
goodness.
Yeah, that type of shit is just, honestly, it's gross, it's scary, and it's just baffling that those are the people, these types of individuals who want this for their children and tell other people this is how you need to raise your child. These are the people that call grooming just the simple acknowledgement that some teachers in the United States are homosexual. That's grooming.
Yeah.
That's grooming. But literally mapping out your child's life for them, forcing them to enact things physically and believe things, that's fine. That's just parenting.
Right. That's why I get so pissed off at it, because I was homeschooled, so like and when people are like, oh, they're trying to indoctrinate our kids in public schools, I want to just fucking slap them, because I'm like, you don't have the slightest fucking idea what indoctrination is.
Right.
It's when you're put in a bubble, not allowed to look out or even ask any fucking questions.
Right.
You're told everything to think, and you're limiting the scope of information. If you that's the main thing. You're limiting the information that they have access to. Granting them access to more information, no possible way that could be fucking indoctrination.
Right.
No possible way.
Right.
It just doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
No, I know. I get it. I get in the same boat. Trust me. Right? And we're still only like halfway through this, and we're already over the hour. So
know, right?
Let's just keep going.
We'll got it.
Through it.
Yeah, we'll cruise through real quick here, and then we'll. All right. So third, notice that Christ says that salt can lose its saltiness and become good for nothing. An ineffective witness. Just real quick, I want to say, does salt do that? Is that a thing that salt does?
I think eventually salt can go bad. Okay. But I think it takes a while. Like, I don't think it's I think if you just poured out a thing of salt on your counter today when we got off of this stream, I think you could probably still use that salt for a couple of weeks. I don't think, you know, you may not
Decades? I
want
don't.
to. Yeah, you may be like, why would I want to? But also, again, like I'll just go buy like a pound of salt for like 89 cents. Like it's just nothing these
Right.
days. So
Okay.
I
So
just
I just didn't know if it could go bad, but I guess that's right. They put the rice in it and stuff. So maybe I'm
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think it's not like a quick process, and it's just really a bad analogy all the way around. It's
Yeah.
honestly
Okay.
the problem.
I
Yeah,
was gonna
yeah.
say because that's just
We're trying to bring logic into this, Brent, and it's
I
just I
I don't know
know.
why I tried. You know, it's stupid. 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 Uh, have you ever asked yourself how salt loses its saltiness? Well, just now, yeah. But
Yeah.
salt loses its saltiness by absorbing impurities or being immersed in humidity, so as to evaporate. I'm pretty sure I know it does not evaporate. That's the moisture evaporates, and then it stays stuck to whatever the thing
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
That anyway,
yeah.
all right. Salt loses its saltiness when okay. Public school is a prime environment for absorbing impurities and being over immersed in the humid culture of the world. And unseasoned, immature children are particularly susceptible to those impurities and that immersion. God, the
Okay.
unseasoned thing, she was just like
Yeah, I know. I
nailed
know
it.
she was really proud of herself.
So
And
far.
again, like I'm not, folks, please. I'm not an expert. Don't just take what I say, you know. But let me just a little piece of advice. Again, not the most important thing here, but it is just worth pointing out. There's something called overextending the metaphor. Okay. You may have heard this in the sense of beating a dead horse. So very quickly, she killed this fucking horse and took the entire rest of that paragraph to just mercilessly beat the living shit out of this dead horse. It is dumb, okay? Like what you should do when providing people with a metaphor, right? Is don't speak down to them like this. That's what she's doing here by continuing to push this thing and just like going even further with talking about the salt in our children, even further talking about the impurities and the immersion of public, even further by saying unseasoned
Season.
in quotes. She put it in fucking quotes. We know that the children aren't actually seasoned. We know you're not fucking putting them in a goddamn plastic bag with brine overnight. We know that. We're not stupid. Don't talk to us like we're stupid. It makes your metaphor shit. It makes your writing bad. It is difficult to get through because you spend a whole paragraph explaining the joke to us. Like we get the joke. The chicken didn't cross the road. Like we understand. We get it. You don't have to be like, okay, so look, so like there's two sides to a street and a chicken is a bird.
So sometimes things need to get from one side of the street to the other because whatever they're trying to get to is on the opposite side of the street. And so because of that whole situation, they have to then cross the street.
Now it's funny. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no.
Now I get it. I didn't understand it before. I thought you were genuinely saying your children go to school with salt sprinkled on them.
Right. Like that's right. I
Fucking
learned this at Safety Village when I was like 12 years old. Okay. Got it.
you just sprinkle all the salt to protect you. Oh god. Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's get through this next one. Okay.
I know.
Shouldn't
difficult.
we want to train our children to face the real world? Maybe you feel like Christian school or homeschool is a bubble of unreality. Yep. But
Exactly.
so is public school. The real world isn't anything like public school. Where in the real world are people congregated in groups of people only their own age? Where in the real world will they face such an overbalance of peer-related temptations? Surely they will face temptations as adults, but generally those temptations will not be so concentrated. And more to the point, adults have the maturity to handle them. How? You just automatically get that once you turn a certain age? We can train our children in the issues of the real sinful world without sending them into it. Is God with our children? If they're Christians, to help them face temptations? Of course. But in sending our children to public schools, we must know that we're casting them into a myriad of temptations that they could be shielded from in their immaturity, and some that they very likely wouldn't ever have to face otherwise. So here's a great way to get people prepared for problems in the world. Just don't ever let them be around them. Just don't ever let anybody be aware of any of the bad things. Hey, did you guys know that a military coup happened a couple of years ago in Myanmar, and they just literally started killing people in the streets? They've done it again recently, just planes and guns and bombs, just indiscriminately killing thousands of people. You want to know the best way to fix that? Not fucking talk about it, right? Like, just avoid the situation. Just pretend that it's not happening and just be like, oh, isn't that bad? Like, oh well, let's
It was
stay away from
unfortunate.
that.
Yeah.
Fucking nonsense. Like, this is why adults grow up to be incapable of dealing with situations, is
Right.
because people are actively attempting to avoid ever experiencing any difficult situations in a safe place, right? This is what happens. And so these individuals grow up thinking that, oh shit, the world is just designed for me and made for me, and I get everything I fucking want. So they pitch a fucking hissy fit when they can't do their TikTok video in the middle of traffic, stopping thousands of people driving. Like,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. It's
Well,
just crazy.
and also when you bubble a kid in like this, and I know that I definitely, I don't want it to say, I don't want to say that this is the full reason for everything that I went through as far as like drug use and stuff like that growing up, but you cause your child to be afraid of the world because they're not familiar with it.
Yes.
A classroom is not a scary thing. It's just not. And I've
Right.
been terrified to ever go to college because I'd never been in a classroom before. And the whole thing just seems overwhelming and scary, you know?
Right.
And drug use is a really good way to just like feel like it doesn't actually do anything, but it makes you feel like you're coping better, right? Which
Right.
is very similar to religion, actually, because again, it does nothing, but it makes you feel like you're doing something.
Exactly.
Like,
Because this just flippant statement of adults have the maturity to handle stuff. Like, that is just so, I mean, talk about not understanding the human condition at all. That,
right.
if anybody in their fucking life believes that they just woke up one day and were just mature and just able to handle shit, like, you go ahead and bottle your pill or write your damn self-help book and go start touting this fucking method. Like, because it's just not real. That's just not how things happen. And if we just continue to believe that someday we'll just all magically reach maturity or something, like it's just some point in life, like, oh man, you hit 50, hey, congratulations, half a century, man, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, did you get maturity? It's like, oh yeah, just like last week, man, it was crazy.
I
My
could do
buddy
my
didn't.
taxes now, and
Yeah,
it's crazy. I
my
don't.
buddy didn't get it till like 2 weeks after his birthday. So I was surprised. It was great.
Some people
What?
sets in a little bit later.
It's
It
just
takes them.
it's just fucking stupid.
And for me, honestly, dude, it took me like I feel like I was completely immature like my whole life because it took me like getting my brain out of that brain cage
Mhm.
of religion and these like crazy beliefs that were stifling my curiosity and
Right,
me even trying to figure anything out because I was like, I already know everything. Jesus, Jesus,
right.
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And that is, that fucking stifles you, man. It keeps you stuck and it keeps you
Absolutely.
immature. It's
That is
literally the opposite of what she's saying.
100% right there, man. 100%. The number one way to remain immature, the number one way to ensure that you never make progress is to segregate yourself where you are actively avoiding other information, other experiences in life, opening and broadening your horizons. That is the number one way to achieve the exact opposite of what she is saying they should achieve. And she's advocating for this method. And that's the problem. That's what is always so frustrating, It's like, this isn't a problem on me. This is a problem on you. I want maturity, and I've got a method to actually get children to that place, because we look at the peer-reviewed studies of the individuals that have been in this field for hundreds of years, and we base our decisions on that. On the other hand, you miss Christian nationalist blog writer, you would like to do the exact opposite. So
What they do is they just pretend that they're right. And so when you think the information is just like stamping your feet and deciding that you're right about something, sure, everything's equal.
Yep.
Because she probably just thinks that the teachers just happen to just be deciding that things are true, and that's it. And that's how you decide facts, is just who stamps their feet the hardest.
Yeah. I mean, basically, that's how we figured out the age of the earth. We just kind of spun around a few times and we're like, 14 something billion. Fuck it.
And that's my favorite number. So
that seems right.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 is a cool number, but it's not cool enough, but like 15 feels too round. So like, let's just cut it off a little bit. Like,
sounds unrealistic when you get into 15.
It does.
Like,
it does.
Be off.
Yeah.
Should be like 14, 7, 66.
Yeah, right. 14 point something, like 6 or 8 or 865, or I don't know, whatever.
Something random sounding, It's just,
oh my God. Okay, let's see. Public school is an intensified battlefield, not the real world. If Christian school or homeschool is a bubble of protection and immersion in Christian values, public school is a bubble of immersion in secular values and intensified temptations. That's so stupid.
Good God.
Okay. If your child is attending public school, you may be actively teaching your child to swim against the culture, but realize that you've put him not into the lap pool, but into the ocean with a strong riptide. 1,000 arms of current are trying to pull him under. That's just a really bad.
Why are you bringing arms into it, man? You can just
she's really not good at, she's not good at.
It's like 1,000 tentacles of the current. Like,
and it's just me being like really shitty about it, but it is frustrating because it's like, it is. It's hard to read because it's like your point is muddled because you're trying to like make it seem smarter than it really is. Like it's, and you don't have to do that. You look like an asshole when you do that, when you try to sit there and anyway, okay. I keep moving forward.
I know.
God, it's frustrating.
I get it, man.
Or how many unbelieving students are in your child's school? How many unbelieving teachers? That many people are potentially trying to pull your child under. That doesn't mean I'm saying that all those teachers or students are as bad as they could be. Okay. But see my point below. At the end of the day, all unbelievers hate God in their hearts and have rejected the capital T truth.
What?
You just have to be such an arrogant asshole to live your life like that. Like, and I mean this, as frustrated as I get, and as, as hard as I'll criticize some of these things, I genuinely do feel bad, because there's no way that a human being could walk around thinking stuff like that and genuinely be in a place of peace and happiness, because you constantly have to be so defensive and defensive and immature and self-centered and just uninterested in any positive outcomes that don't adhere to your belief. And that just must be hell. That just must be hell to constantly be in that state of existence. And so that's why I do this stuff, is because I don't want people to live in a place where they are actively hurting themselves. If you walked into a room and you saw your best friend constantly putting their fucking hand on a hot stove, you would try to say to them, hey, don't do that. Here are reasons not to do that. Like, you're hurting yourself. Like, you want to help them. And genuinely, I feel that people walking around with that thought in their head, that all unbelievers just hate God in their hearts and they've rejected the truth of the world. Like, it just you just must be in so much pain all the fucking time.
Yeah,
And
because it's like if you went to that person who's burning their hand and trying to explain to them why they shouldn't do that, you're like, "What, you think you're better than me? You think you're better?
you're
Huh? I don't have to
persecuting
listen
me.
to you. You're persecuting." Dude,
Oh.
like, I'm just gonna the sad thing is they probably think that whole thing's reversed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for
They're
sure.
like,
For
they're
sure.
burning themselves by not having my exact doctrine
I
of
know.
my exact religion.
I know. And it's nonsense because it's like it's literally it's two people standing in front of a stove and one of them is actively burning their hand and the other person is like, "Look, here's your burnt hand." And they're like, "No, no. That's
That's
not
not
you're
burn.
the one who's burning your hand.
It's just a
I'm
flesh wound.
I'm burning I'm burning my hand holding your smoldering fucking arm right now, but other than that, no." Like,
It's yeah. This actually feels better.
yeah,
You should try it.
you
You should
should
do
try it.
this.
You should pour some salt and light on it. I'll make it.
Get your hand over here. Let's go. Oh God, that's crazy. Oh, see, so the question is, like, haven't Christians been sending their children to public schools for hundreds or thousands?
I
Okay,
don't
I
think
don't know
public
about the
education has
thousands.
been, yeah, I don't, yeah. I just feel confident about that timeline being wrong, but whatever.
Hundreds, yeah, but and really only like two or three.
Right.
But okay, well, first of all, this isn't really a biblical reason to make a decision. What the fuck? That just okay.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Yup.
All right. I mean, all right.
She's technically right about that.
Yeah. I just want to say that shit cuts both ways. That's all I'm saying. So don't be coming at me with, "Oh, well, people have been believing in Jesus Christ for 2,000 years, secular rarity, blah, blah, blah." Like, no, it's not a biblical fucking reason. So don't
Yeah.
be, don't be telling me that shit anymore. Okay,
The
it's
Bible
fine.
says nothing about how long people have believed in stuff
That's right.
and having any bearing on the argument.
I'm just saying.
Oh God, it's so funny.
You want to play that card? I'll play that card. Stupid.
But to answer that question, not really. No. In general, Christians have always been educated by Christians until the 1800s, whether that be parents, private tutors, pastors, or church members. If by public school you mean the schools of the Massachusetts Bay Colony of the 1600s, for example, those were public schools only in that they were education for all. And Massachusetts Bay Colony was a theocracy, so the government was run by the churches, and so and so were the schools. This was true all over Europe until the 1800s, where education was run by churches and teachers were heavily vetted for their firmness in the faith.
I think she's a little bit off on that timeline,
I don't.
but
Yeah. Right. Okay. 'Cause
I'm
I'm not.
not, yeah, I'm not 100% on it, so I'm not gonna. I mean, the stuff that she says next here about like Horace Mann and stuff, yeah, I know some of that, but like I don't think all the way up until the 1800s, every public school throughout Europe was Christian. A lot of the public schools in the United States at that time were, because the United States really hadn't been founded. And yeah, like a lot of the various colonies were theocracies. They were just straight
Right.
up theocracies. And they were horrible.
Yeah,
were
they were the
terrible.
Puritans, for
Yes.
Christ. They were just killing people because they just all decided people were fucking witches.
Yes, it was literally a very, very bad time that if anybody is advocating for going back to, you should remind them that that concept is 100% anti-American. That is not what the founding fathers wanted or stood for. You arguing to protect this nation and then arguing to change it to a theocracy. Those ideas are exclusively contradictory.
Yes.
They don't work. They don't work. They don't fucking work.
So, all right, yeah, here, I'll try to like blast through the last.
I know it's my fault on some of it, but I got
okay,
some time,
we're not.
man.
Yeah,
we're
not too far.
We'll get through it before the next turn of the hour.
Okay, cool. All right, let's see here. So, oh yeah, we're right here. So, public education as we know it in America uh, didn't exist until the 1870s when Horace Mann, father of the American public school system, and the U.S. congressman led the United States into a system of free government-led education. The difference between his public schools and that of the Puritans, for instance, cannot be overstated. For instance, okay, one of one of his primary goals in creating government common public schools was to eradicate Calvinism and Catholicism from the growing American populace. Man, who had rejected his Calvinist upbringing, believed that education could save American democracy, but only if doctrine was removed from the academic subjects. He wanted Americans to hold everything in common, and the government got to decide what those common elements were.
Yeah, so I just want to say the belief that education could save American democracy, but only if doctrine was removed from the academic subjects, that I don't say this often, but that shit is based. I am 100% in support of that. 100% in support of that. Yes, education can save not only democracy in the US, but democracy worldwide, but also just people. Just people. Like education will save people. That's why I am such a huge proponent for it. Like absolutely 100% as long as doctrine is not a part of it. So
Yeah.
Super with you there, Mr. Man.
Yeah, Mr. Man. Look here, Mr. Man. We see this philosophy today in the extreme when the government is further from a Judeo-Christian worldview, and common elements include children being taught a common view of LGBTQ ideology, common CRT ideology, etc. This situation is not improving. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Wow.
I'm going to hold my comment.
Fucking...
I'm going to hold my comment till these last few sentences, and then I'll pick up the next section. But oh boy, do I have something about that.
Right? Oh, it's so gross. Like, so anyway, does anyone really believe that public school is the same as it was 150 years ago, 50 years ago, 5 years ago, even?
It's such a stupid. Again, I know this is totally not the point of this, but this person is bad at writing. They're just bad at writing. That's how she ends the section. That's how she ends this section with 3 fucking rhetorical questions that don't provide anything. She literally could have just left it as, does anyone believe public school is the same as it was 150 years ago? But that is such a weak way to end this section. Like that is just it's
what does that have to do?
I know.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's just she shoehorns it in here because she believes that asking these questions like this right here is effective. Like it's like getting her point across, but it's not. It is preaching to the choir and it is talking down to the audience. It is just frustrating. She's a bad fucking writer, and she probably gets that from reading this shitty written Bible because it's just horrible. It's just bad writers.
Yeah, and other articles like these.
And other articles like this, exactly. Okay, you know? Now my quick little rant. No, I'll take these next 2 sections because they're pretty quick. But common view of LGBTQ ideology. Let's talk about that. And let's talk about common CRT ideology, etc. By the way, she uses 2 points to make her point, which just, again, totally picky and pedantic on my part, but it's a good idea as an author when trying to push for some particular argument. 3 points. It has a nice flow to it. There's the rule of 3 in comedy. It's just something that goes across lots of different media. Okay, just pointing that out. So saying common view of LGBTQ, common view of CRT, etc., kind of makes it look like you don't have any more fucking points. Whereas like, when you have 3 and then etc., it's like, okay, this person is like actually trying to like really give us, and they don't have enough time to give us all the arguments, but they're gonna later. She doesn't, but whatever. Anyway, I could be wrong on this. Okay. But when it comes to things like the right for individuals to marry who they love, regardless of sex or gender, the right for an individual to receive gender affirming medical care, This isn't so much an ideology as it is literally advocating for just the very, very lowest of levels of legal protection.
Right.
Am I wrong on that? I just have to understand, because I don't view an ideology as somebody simply advocating for the right not to be murdered. And I could be wrong. Maybe I don't fucking understand the English language. Maybe I just genuinely do not know what an ideology is. But I could have sworn that it was more than just a human being saying, please don't put me in jail for who I am and who I love. I could have fucking sworn. So that was the thing that jumped out at me. And again, like CRT ideology, I seriously, I really, I challenge anyone. I challenge fucking anyone to disagree with this statement, which is many places around the world, but specifically in the United States, there has been a systemic history of actively making racist policies so as to specifically negatively target a group of people based on nothing more than immutable characteristics about them. That historic, systemic problems are things that have shaped the world we live in today. I seriously challenge anybody. I challenge fucking anybody to disagree with that. Let me go ahead and give you the history of South Africa. Are you familiar with why Pakistan and India split? Do you know anything about the creation of Australia as a nation? And that's just scratching the surface. There's like, what, 200 some odd different fucking countries in the world. Name a place, you asshole. Name a place where that statement isn't true. It's literally everywhere. That is so basic. It would be as if somebody came up to you and said, I just have a problem with all this blue sky ideology. What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's
But
just like right there.
But people, well, they're talking about it though, and I don't like that. They're teaching the kids.
Oh my God. It's just so, it's just ridiculous. And this is what they like to do, is this far-right Christian nationalist, they are the ones with an ideology. They are the ones with an agenda. They are the ones interested in passing laws that negatively target people. They're the ones interested in that. And what they do is they gin up all this support by throwing out these things, the LGBTQ ideology. What's the ideology? What's the big agenda here? What the fuck are you talking about? And where is your evidence to support that? Like, and they don't have it, and they won't engage in that conversation because they know they don't have it. And they know that by not providing it, and instead just speaking in these vague general terms with these scary buzzwords, they know that they can achieve more successes like they have taken over the Supreme Court and the federal judiciary, putting laws into place, again, that are actively going to cause people to be in jail or die. Like, they're the ones that are doing that. And a great way to get your side to continue doing that, especially when the other side isn't fighting you in that manner, is to just constantly point to the other side and go, look what they're doing. Look what they're so bad. They're so bad. Look how bad they are. Look how bad they are. And every time you do that, you can take another step, because you now have this justification. You now have this platform to stand on. Whereas in reality, you're just the aggressor the entire time.
Right.
So yeah.
It's complete projection. And it's one of those things where if they say it first, then you can't say it about them. That's how they think. Oh no, I already said that about you though. So you're clearly just making this up. It was like the Trump's like entire
Yes.
tactic. He just said everything about everybody else that he was doing. So you can be like, I said that you guys were doing that. That's the only reason you're saying I'm doing it now.
Right.
What are
And
you
that
guys, 11?
it is classic. It is classic bait and switch. It is classic distraction because you know you're in the wrong. It is, again, there so many of these people at this point are not just passive actors in this. They knowingly are presenting false information. And it's like the people like Kent Hovind and stuff, right? At this point in time, it is not fair anymore to say, oh, maybe he's just mistaken. Maybe he just sincerely believes and has never been privy to information that contradicts him. It's demonstrably false at this point, right? People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people like Boebert and Trump, and all of the other horrible people that we can name, Alex Jones, the My Pillow guy, all of these terrible people, okay? They know what they're doing. Tucker Carlson was just part of an almost $800 million lawsuit that his side settled because they knew explicitly that what they were doing was pushing false information that they did not believe. We have that on record. It is on record that at the time they chose, nobody coerced them, nobody asked them. On their own, they stood up and said, I do not believe this. It is bullshit. And still continued to peddle the information. We know that. That is the truth. And what you do in that situation is you point to the other side and you talk about all the bad things that the other side is doing, because that's how you can continue to spout the stuff that you know is untrue. You are lying because you know for a fact it is not correct and you don't believe it. You know it's not true and you don't believe it.
Yeah.
And so that's why they do shit like this.
Yeah. And they'll be like, well, but MSNBC said that Joe Rogan was taking horse paste. And that's technically it's not horse paste.
Like, and you get one side where an organization gets stuff wrong, but corrects it, admits to getting stuff wrong, and another side where an organization gets stuff wrong and refuses in any way, shape, or form to admit that. And you have people out there who look at the first organization and go, well, that's the worst organization. They got stuff wrong and they said that they got stuff wrong. So clearly they got stuff wrong.
So they're a liar. Like, yeah.
They're a liar. And it's like, again, I just try to make this as neutral as possible. Try to take this situation out of these hot button issues. You wouldn't accept that in any other fucking capacity. You would never accept that. If you're hanging out with buddies at your local bar and you guys are playing darts or something, and there's this one guy who's like, nah, man, like I never cheated. And it's like, no, Bill, we know you cheated. We watched you on camera. Right. And you've got this other guy who's like, man, hey, I cheated. I'm sorry. No worries. We'll just take the points off the board and just keep playing. Who are you going to play with?
Exactly.
You just, and that's what's so frustrating is these types of thought processes, these types of arguments don't even work for them in every other scenario of their lives. And yet they put a bubble around this aspect of life and they say, nope, it always works here. This is when I'm going to use this, but I refuse to use it personally for myself in any other situation. That shows you that your method is fucked. That's what that shows you.
You're data mining yourself. You're trying to convince yourself of a thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And that should be something that every single one of us, religious or not, pay attention to. And if we find ourselves going, I only use this methodology in this particular topic and nowhere else in my life, reevaluate your methodology. Plain and simple.
Just real quick. But hey, real quick, I got to take a brief break real fast.
Yeah. We'll do an intermission.
Okay, yeah, and then we'll come back and we'll finish out this last little bit. And so here we go. All right. All right. Thank you for giving me that little break there. Oh, and where's the brand? All right. Oh, no, he's disappeared. I don't know where he went. Oh, 1 second. I don't know where he went. Okay. All right.
Back. All right.
All right. Cool.
We're close to the end. I'll take these last two because they're really short, and then you can have the final one.
Okay.
So we are at what is an unbeliever, folks? Okay. Jesus Christ. It's a very short section, so I'm just gonna go ahead and disappoint everybody. She doesn't really answer. So even the most kind-hearted, unbelieving teacher, even one who is politically conservative, has rejected the authority of God, has turned his or her back on the sovereign ruler of the universe and his divine plan for human history. Can that person disciple your child toward Christ's likeness, i.e., educate. So, she
Wow.
used i.e. wrong, but
I was gonna say
okay.
it's supposed to be like an example of anyway.
Right. Right. So that she didn't do that right. Again, not the most important point. Also, again, not the most important point, but if you are writing an article or blog or just anything in general in which you're trying to get your point across to other people for any fucking reason whatsoever, it's a good idea if you start out a whole section, if you purposefully decide to section off a piece of your information with a question, it's a great idea to answer that question. Because
Right.
otherwise, you look like a jackass that
That's
doesn't
what
know
we're
what
doing
you're
here.
doing. That doesn't know what you're doing. Like if Brent and I started this whole podcast out with what is economics, and then refuse to ever at any point give you a definition, you should rightfully stop listening. Okay?
Right.
Because we're assholes. We're assholes because we didn't answer the question we chose to ask. Nobody made us ask this question to you. Nobody put this thought into your head or anything. The reader did not say, oh my goodness, I really hope that she describes what an unbeliever is because that is my big question. Nope. You chose to do this and you failed.
Yeah. Just answer it.
Again, it's not.
It's in bold.
I know, and it's not. Again, I know that is like super picky, and it's like, oh, Elliot, that doesn't really have anything to do with. And it's like, yeah, I understand. I'm seriously in the boat of just trying to, just wanting for everyone to be better in everything all the time. I just want the world to be better. And when I see somebody who is just actively doing a bad job in some very, very minor things like this that are really super easy, I just want to help. And it's like, hey, if you put these grocery items in a bag of some kind, you can actually move them easier with less damage. And it's like, no, I prefer to carry my carton of eggs on my head. And it's like, all right, fine. I mean, you do
It's
what
good
you
for my
want.
posture.
It's good.
You know, it's
Fucking, it helps my spine. It's like, well, it doesn't. And when your eggs break, I'm sorry. So
that's it, you know.
let's see if she will answer this next fucking question. So who
Probably
and
not.
what educates at school? Is it just the textbooks and the teacher's lecture material? No. The common practices or liturgies of the students and the school, the character of companions, the talk in the hallways and lunchroom, school culture, the example of the teachers, and other implicit education happens every single day. I genuinely wonder if she thinks that's also true for homeschooling, because I bet you she would not make that connection, that the way you act in front of your child as a parent also is doing this, and the people that you bring them in front of. I don't think she would recognize that, because I think she would find that if she recognized that, there's potentially more problems with the home stuff. Anyway, while certainly parents can prepare their children for these things and shore up their children's faith, children will be educated by the hidden curriculum. Ooh. Even without their knowledge or explicit participation. A child would have to be hyper vigilant to be aware of this enough to combat it. And I contend that especially young children will almost certainly not be aware enough or strong enough to avoid being educated by the hidden curriculum. Again, I just think it would be really interesting to know if she felt that this exists in homeschooling as well. Because if she doesn't acknowledge that, I honestly think it's very telling, because it's like, hey, okay. So again, who's the groomer here? Who's
Yeah.
doing the indoctrinating? If she does recognize it, then I genuinely love to know how she deals with that herself. I'd love to know what she does, because I think if she says the second answer of recognizing that that sword cuts both ways, I think she would just then start telling on herself about how she's essentially abusing her children.
Right.
Because if you say, hey, yes, I recognize that also homeschooling, there can still be this hidden curriculum that I'm kind of laying out here poorly, like this type of thing would still occur. It would just occur in a way that I find good. And it's like, okay, so how would you combat certain bad aspects of that? And I believe that she would probably have to say restricting my child physically and mentally. I believe that that's what she would have to say. She wouldn't use those words, but she would give examples of how she is keeping her child physically away from other people and possibly even punishing her child in a physical manner so
Oh, I
as to
guarantee it.
enforce that.
Yeah.
Also restricting the child's education and forcing the child to agree with certain viewpoints that she agrees with. So yeah, I think that's what would end up happening. So I just think that's really interesting.
And and another thing real quick, because I don't know if we're just sort of like touching on this concept as well. Um, the one other thing that is, that I've noticed, especially coming out of the homeschool world and everything, another huge problem with this, with like homeschooling in general, and possibly Christian school too, depending upon which one and
Mm.
who's in charge and whatnot. But nobody ever gets to inspect your children. Right? So it makes it's just a breeding ground for abuse of just so many different kinds
Mhm.
of abuse.
Yep.
And there's never anybody that's ever outside going, "Hey, but why do they look like this? Why are they acting in this weird way?"
Yep.
Because certain abuse types of abuse cause certain behaviors, and teachers in the public school system are
Are
trained
trained.
to be looking for this, right?
Yep.
And it's not always a black eye,
Mhm.
It might just be that they want to hug everybody,
Mhm.
they want to touch people, they want to climb on top of adults and stuff, just like things like that that is very unusual for a child to do to people that they don't know and stuff. And
Right.
so it just opens the door for that to just be pervasive just all through. And they never want to act like that is a thing, like, oh no, not my
Yes.
house,
And they
and
and
half.
they refuse any oversight. They actively push against it. Yep.
Right. And then they won't wanna, even if the kid goes to them and says, "Hey, dad or uncle, whatever," they'll get mad at him. "Go to your room, stop lying,
Yep.
get out of here. This is not," and they got no one else to tell,
Yes.
and it's just really sad and gross.
Yep, it
Yeah.
is. It's a very, very disgusting thing, and yeah, and this is where all of those horrible things start. And again, this isn't just us conjecturing on this. This isn't us just saying, "Oh, we don't like religion, bro. We're gonna tear it down every way we." No, this is fucking data. This is fucking data.
A
They
lot of it. Yeah.
a few months ago, a ring of homeschool, private school, religious school. It was kind of a mashup of all three of those, of Orthodox Jewish individuals was raided and busted because they were actively abusing dozens of children, actively abusing them in multiple ways. This is something that is pervasive and it is inherent in the system. It is something, it is not just bad actors acting out a good method. No, no, it is a bad method that, even if enacted by good actors, still leads to this problem. That is the issue. That is why I am so against it. That is why so many of us talk about it. It is inherent in the system itself, a system that is entirely about arbitrary authority from above, a system that is entirely about thought and behavior and information control, a system that shuns transparency. That is what this is. And that type of system will always lead to more negative results like this, period. That's the point. That's why I'm so against it. That's why I fight against this stuff. That's why I rant against this stuff, is because I'm not saying, oh, well, sometimes people use it poorly. No, I'm telling you, You are currently looking at a broken down car with a hockey puck and a fucking lobster in your hand saying, well, if I just do this right, it'll work. No, it won't. And it will lead to more bad consequences always, inherently. There's nothing you can fucking do about it. So
it'll pinch your fingers.
it will. That's what happens. And it will not start your car. I'm sorry. It just won't. And it won't help educate your kids either. It's all the way around bad.
You got to remember the little rubber things that go on there.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. That is, yeah. But it is a serious thing though, too, because it is just, like you said, removing all oversight. And that's really what they're mad about. They're mad that there's any kind of oversight, that anybody but that wasn't completely ran by her religion got to choose like how that oversight should be, because this isn't a democratic situation where it's like, okay, but we need education for everybody, right? It's a public school. It's not a Christian school. It's not a Muslim school. It's like just a public school. It's for everybody. And because she didn't have her doctrine with the people in charge going, no, we make all the rules and decide what oversight we get and don't get and what the rules are and what the rules aren't, then it's evil. It's a bad, meanwhile, that's actually, she's encouraging people to not put their kids in school, which leads them extremely just not ready for the real world, which opens them up to a lot of drug use and things like that. And on top of the abuse and everything that happens quite frequently. And I'm not talking about, like, it wasn't just one or two, like we were in a whole homeschool group. I have it's anecdotal, but it's like the most anecdotes from a very small sample set. You know what I mean? A lot of anecdotes.
And it's anecdotes that we have cataloged, and we do have data on it. Like, yes, a bunch of these stories add up in the sense of saying we do have an accounting of these things, and these things occur more often in these types of situations. Like, again, this is not a slippery slope. It is me telling you demonstrably, historically, academically speaking, this is the chain of progression. We just know it. It's just the same as talking about the stages in an internal combustion engine. Okay. We know that this happens, then this happens, then it causes this reaction. And that's the same thing. That's the same thing what we're saying here. This type of ideology, which is what it is, this type of agenda, which is what it is, this type of indoctrination. See, I did the rule of 3 thing there, lady. Just learn from that.
See how that goes?
See how that goes? This leads to these bad things, which leads to more negative consequences. That's what we're saying. It's not a slippery slope. It is a demonstrable chain of progression. And that is a key difference. We're not just theorizing about this. We're talking about the data that we have. And so, yeah, this is why this is so problematic. And this is why we have to make sure that the education system in the country is not taken over in this manner. Like, we cannot allow that, because it will lead to more abuse. It will lead to more harm for people just across the board. So,
and just to keep in mind too, just as far as like a long game kind of understanding goes, that like abuse breeds more abuse.
Exactly.
People that are abused usually end up abusing their children, and so on and so forth. And
exactly.
It just keeps going down the line. So like,
yes,
if we could stop it here, it could be huge for the future.
Yep. Again, back to what Horace was saying about education can save American democracy, but only if doctrine is removed. Yeah.
Totally right. Like, he is absolutely correct on that.
It's amazing how fucking true that is, buddy.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So where are we at here?
The last section.
Oh, wow. We made it.
We made it. Yeah. At this point, I'm just resolved to get through it. We're getting through it if it takes another 5 hours. We're doing it.
Right. Okay. Oh, we're good. Okay. Right there at the end. Good. Here we go. All right. Does government have the authority to educate? We have been conditioned for approximately 100 years that professionally trained teachers are better equipped to educate children. Yeah, okay. All right. The idea that children, sorry.
Just imagine switching out teachers with doctors there, or mechanic. Again, it's a plumber. Like it's nonsense. When you put this in any other context, you feel like you're fucking going crazy because there's somebody legitimately telling you, yeah, we've just been conditioned to believe that mechanics, professionally trained mechanics, are better equipped to build cars and fix them. And it's like, yeah, we've been, yeah, of course we have. What the fuck?
Conditioned because that's just a true thing.
We've just been conditioned to believe that professionally trained chefs are better equipped to cook food than the asshole on the side of the street. Like, God, I wonder why. Gosh, like, I wonder why.
It's like, and what a slap in the face to fucking teachers, man.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God. Gross. Yes. Okay, so the idea that teachers needed specialized training resulted primarily from the new field of child psychology in the early 1900s, which itself is a result of evolutionary science. Well, I mean, technically, everything that humans do is a result of evolutionary science.
Right. And it's like, and this is somebody who I'm sure does not agree with the understanding of evolution, which means this is a woman that just disagrees with an entire academic field of biology. Okay. Like it's like, it's so frustrating because she's using this child psychology coming out of evolutionary science, which is where we get the understanding that, you know, you have to be fucking educated to like teach children properly. She's trying to use that chain as like a problem. But again, like, take this into another field, okay? And be like, yeah, man, we only believe that doctors need to be educated because of that new emerging field of medicine that started, you know, hundreds of years ago, which itself is actually just a result of having demonstrable proof of things. Like, it's crazy. Like, if you put that in any fucking other context, it's just stupid nonsense that she's babbling, because what she's saying there is like the exact reason that you should trust it. So she's like, yeah, man, all we have to like indicate that teachers need special training is because of this whole child psychology thing. And it's like, wow, what did that come out of? And it's like, well, child psychology came out of like, you know, evolutionary science. And it's like, oh, wow. What is that founded in? And it's like, well, just like the basic principles of epistemology in general and logic and you know, experiencing the world around us and stuff. It's like, wow, that actually sounds really well founded. Actually, are you trying to discredit these fields here? Or are you trying to bolster them? I'm confused. Right. And it's because I'm not confused. It's because she's the one that's confused and is now trying to say, oh, evolutionary science, that just proves all of this is bullshit.
Because she knows that once she says it's based on this, that everybody that is reading her stupid blog will be like, oh, okay, well, that's why we can just like decide to not listen to anything. That
it's a buzzword. It's a buzzword that she can throw out like she did with CRT and LGBTQ. It's a buzzword
and
that
the
she
third
throws
one
out.
that she didn't do,
and the third one that she didn't list. Right. So it feels weird when describing it even. Yeah. I'm trying to criticize her and I can't even properly do it because she did such a poor job of explaining her point.
We almost don't need to. She just does it herself.
Right.
But besides the fact that government teacher certification is wholly unnecessary as a qualification,
she got a PhD in Christian education. She got a fucking PhD in Christian education from a Christian college, and she says government teacher certification is wholly unnecessary as a qualification.
Then
wow.
Why did you get one then, lady?
Wow. That's what I'm saying.
Imagine being Jesus.
Imagine being so fucking oblivious. Imagine that. Like, to just be like, man, Brent, like, your checkered plaid shirt that you're wearing right now is just wholly unnecessary. It's worthless. And it's like, oh, really, SR? Oh, fucking really? The same shirt that you're wearing?
Right?
Oh my God.
Like,
It's
goddamn
very,
Gap on every corner.
yes.
Like,
Oh my gosh. Oh,
that's
okay.
awesome. Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, so the biblical answer. Wait. See. Does the government have the authority to teach teachers or offer a program of education to children? The biblical answer is no.
Well, at least she answered the question. I
I don't.
mean,
Right?
I'm just proud of her for that. So,
Boom, right there. One word.
yeah.
No and
Cool.
no. Yes or no
Why didn't
question.
she do that every other section? Who
I,
knows? But
it's 2 letters, man.
yeah.
Like, come on. Uh, governments are not given the authority by God to have any part in education. Fucking what? So as long as you decide that your God gives the governments their what they're allowed to do according to your belief system, you could
I
just say
just
that they don't have the authority to do
I
it.
just don't fucking remember the Bible talking about public education. And maybe that's just on me. Maybe I just didn't read it all the way through, man. But that's just so frustrating when people say stuff like that. Like they're like, what's the do mechanics have the authority to fix cars? Where the biblical answer is no. Like,
God didn't give them that authority to fix cars. So
where does God mention anything about this? Like you can say, oh, it's not in there. Like that's fine. But like don't just pretend. It's so frustrating. It's like, where in the Bible does it mention like energy drinks? And it doesn't. And that's all I want is an admission that it doesn't explicitly say the fucking thing that you're saying, but the thing that I'm saying it says, it does explicitly say. Give me the explanations afterwards. That's fine. Go, hey, well, it doesn't explicitly say no caffeine, but we kind of make that conclusion based off of this, and we kind of extend that thought process into this thing, or okay,
Joseph
it's
Smith said that
right. Like just give me that at least, because otherwise, again, it is just so frustrating because you are just outright disregarding everything around you. And it's like, hey, the sign says stop. Like it is a stop sign. And it's like, yeah, but see, like there's all this other explanation and stuff. And it's like, right. That's fine. Like you can talk to me about like the ordinance that just got passed in your city or whatever, but like the sign does actually say stop, right? And no, you're misunderstanding. And it's like, no, I don't think I am. I don't think I am. You can give me the explanation in a second, but at least just be honest from the beginning.
yeah.
So does the government have the authority to teach teachers or offer a program of education to children? The Bible doesn't say.
It doesn't talk about that.
The Bible doesn't fucking mention it at all. But me extrapolating from these other things that I'm about to lay out here, I get to the answer no. But that's not what she says. She says the Bible says no. The biblical answer is no.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right, though. It's like with the stop sign, but it's like them saying, but the authority, God didn't give the stop sign
Stop sign.
authority to tell you to stop.
Jesus fucking
You know what?
Christ.
That's like what they're saying.
Yes.
Like,
And
yeah,
it's
because
so
cars
frustrating.
weren't back then, man.
Right.
Like, they didn't have
Right.
street signs.
Yeah. There's a reason that God didn't talk about that.
Oh, this is so difficult.
I know, and we're almost done. I swear, we're almost done. It's amazing. I told you at the beginning, folks. I told you at the beginning. We got through the first paragraph, and you were like, "This is ridiculous," and I'm like, "It somehow gets worse." Like you did not believe, but here we are. Proof.
Oh, yeah, it just gets stupider and stupider as it goes. So governments are not given the authority by God to have any part in education. Parents are given the authority and primary responsibility in parentheses or in quote or parentheses, yeah, parentheses, by God to educate. Churches are given the authority to educate. Fellow believers are given the authority to educate. C3, that was good. Older women and older men, etc. But no governments. God has given governments only two responsibilities: to protect the innocent and reward the good. What?
Where?
When
Like,
does the government reward the good?
right. And when does the Bible say this?
What? And
When
doesn't the
does the
Bible
Bible
say
say this?
the Bible says to obey the government? It says
Yes,
to give Caesar what's Caesar's and obey the
because
government.
God has put them there on purpose.
Yes.
God has ordained the leaders to be the leaders at the time, at the place, because God's fucking in control of everything, and God has higher ways because us as fallible beings can't understand the infallible, can't understand the truly divine. So God's ways are better than ours, and you should just shut the fuck up when you lose public office because that was God's plan. So
Yep.
it doesn't make any sense on any fucking level. But again, I seriously, it's not the most important, but I'm just going to harp on it. Where?
Yeah.
Just anywhere in the Bible. Just any one fucking place where the Bible, from God speaking, is saying, here's government's responsibilities. Just give me any place that it fucking says that. Because otherwise, just admit that what you're doing is extrapolating based on other information. That's okay. I still think you're fucking wrong and it's stupid. But at least you're being honest with me. At least you're being honest.
That's it. Yeah.
She's basically claiming that there's a whole book in the Bible that just like goes into detail about what governments can and can't do from God. And that's just not true. There
Yeah.
is, though, a whole book that lays out fucking laws, some of which talk about how to have slaves, how to beat your slaves. Some of them talk about what foods you can and cannot eat. Some of them talk about how to grow crops and the types of clothing. But nowhere in there in that whole book of rules directly from God does it ever say, oh, and by the way, if a group of people ever decide to get together to govern a particular area or group of people, here are the ways they can and can't do that. Nowhere. Fucking nowhere. I just want that admission.
It's part of this weird like anti-government doctrine that is it's doctrine. It's not a part of Christianity necessarily at
Exactly.
all. It's just a doctrine.
Exactly.
Doctrine.
It is just something that the church has adopted and are pushing on their congregations.
Yeah, and specific, people within it too, because this isn't all Christians either.
Right,
This is like a
right.
very specific, weird, sect where they wear those dresses that just go all the way down to their ankles and puff sleeves.
Mhm.
Like they're in fucking. It's like the Handmaid's Tale. But Jesus. All right, so where are we here? So okay, God has given governments only two to protect the innocent and reward the good. Oh,
Yeah.
fuck it, don't. By involving themselves in education, governments are overstepping their God-given authority. Wait, how do you say it's they're overstepping and their God-given authority? If their authority is God-given, then they I don't know. Maybe I'm looking into that one too.
No,
That
again,
just seems contradictory.
yeah, again, it's not like the most important point, but it is still worth just being like, this doesn't make sense, lady. Like you just
take out the God-given part.
Yep.
If they're overstepping it, don't say that it's given to them by God.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We must then ask ourselves, can we legitimately delegate our children's education to an institution that does not have God's permission to undertake the task?
It'd be great if she just said no. I know that her answer is no to this
Yeah.
question,
Yeah.
but it would be great if she just said it.
She'd be like, I think not.
Yeah.
Per se, as it were.
No, but she's got one
you will.
last little paragraph to really drive this home. So
This is how you know she's got a doctorate, in education.
this is how you know she's got a doctorate. Oh God, yeah.
Look, here it is. PhD in Christian education. Anyway.
PhD in teaching other people fucking fairy tales.
Nothing,
Imagine that. Imagine that.
Jesus. So, all right, let's do this last little section here. And I do want to bring up this. It is really odd that we're reading the article. You don't need to make sections of the article, you know,
I know.
what is the point? We're
I
reading
hate
this
that.
same article.
I know. I genuinely hate that. And I see this in like actual, news organizations and stuff too, where they do this
Oh, okay.
stuff. And it's so
Okay. All
frustrating
right.
though. And the reason that it's frustrating is because all you did was just take a quote out of the article, and that's not helpful. That's not beneficial.
No.
I recognize if a good point has been made. Don't treat me like I'm a fucking idiot and go, hey, hang on a second. You're going to want to clap here in just a minute. We're going to actually turn this sign on for you so that when we introduce the actor onto the fucking stage for a live performance that you're supposed to clap. It's like, hey, dipshit. Yeah, I fucking get
Got it.
that. Like, I get that. It's like, oh, you're supposed to laugh at this joke here in a second. And it's like, it wasn't fucking funny. It wasn't a funny joke, so I'm not laughing at it. If I get the joke and it's funny, I'm going to laugh. You don't have to section it off for me. Like, I get, can we legitimately delegate our children's education to an institution that does not have God's permission to undertake the task? I understand the point you're driving at here. You don't have to say it again. It does nothing. It does nothing here for you.
It's right there.
Right. It's literally right above it. It provides no value whatsoever. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. So again,
so dumb. Oh wow. You do have a print option here. That's really nice. So you can
that's
print
cool.
it. Yeah.
That's good.
Because
I don't have a printer.
So I don't think anybody does except for people that read this bullshit.
Right?
Because they probably
this was such a good article. I want to print this thing out, hang it on my wall.
They're using one of those computers that go the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Is God greater than the public school system? Indeed, he is, as it were, if you will, per se. But that doesn't mean that it's his moral will that children be discipled for any part of their education by governments and unbelievers. The discipleship of our children isn't a secondary issue. It's a sanctification issue. Our children deserve that we think through these things.
Also,
and it's written by Becky Aniol.
I don't know.
Anal. We're just gonna go with that. Yeah.
I just want to say, Becky, seriously, this is undeniably a shitty ending. You objectively did a bad job with closing up this conversation to your readers. Okay. This last little segment here that is cut off by you purposefully quoting your own self in your fucking blog post, okay, in its own section. So you already did that way too close to the end. That doesn't make any fucking sense to begin with. But then you chose to, underneath that, add a little tag. You added just that last little punch to bring it all home. And you chose to do it in a very poor and weak way. This little section at the end, Becky, is supposed to be your final thoughts, your last ditch effort to appeal to your reader and get them onto your side. And you chose to use this. That's poor. You did a shit job, which is why you got a fucking PhD, a worthless PhD in a fucking nonsense subject, a non-academic subject you chose to spend time out of your fucking life to get better at, something that has no real world value. That's what you did. And that's why you ended this very crap article with objectively a poor literature ending. Like, this is just bad. Okay. Like, let me a quick example. And I swear I'll shut up because I know I've just been making this thing go long.
That's awesome.
There is a man named Mark Twain, not his actual name, but we're just going to use it. Mark Twain is considered by many different standards, many different academics, one of the tops of the tops when it comes to American literature. His writing encapsulates generations. It perfectly gives you a slice of the culture. It was the catalyst for many an individual after in many fields. Huckleberry Finn is considered to be one of the tops of his writings, one of the pinnacles of beautiful fucking literature. And it is objectively considered one of the worst fucking endings. Mark Twain himself put down Huckleberry Finn for a long time because he could not figure out how to end it, and ultimately gave an ending that he fully believed completely made the entire rest of the book worthless. He hated his ending. Again, objectively, it is considered a bad ending. And all I want to say, Becky, is that is how you ended this article. You did a shit job of ending this article. You should have put this article down for a while and thought harder. And then at the end of this, when you gave this very paltry ending, you should have, in parentheses underneath it, admitted to your readers that you recognize that this ending is kind of lackluster. And while you do feel bad about that, you had been working on this for a long time and had put your thoughts out very well in the rest of the article in such a way that you felt that there wasn't any other good way to wrap up this article. You recognize that you did a shit job at the end, Becky, and you are apologizing to your reader for having to sit through it. That's what you should have done if you were being honest. Again, you did a bad job. You did a bad job throughout the article, just on very basic aspects of it, which again is probably why you were railing against public education, because you don't have any education on your
The
own.
irony. Oh my God. The irony.
So
this is exactly why you don't want to, people to learn
That's
stuff,
right.
because then they can figure out that you suck at this.
Right. Because then they'll read your article and say things like, man, it's super weird that she made this whole one section talking about this particular topic, but then didn't really go through the basic level of explanation for laying out what she means by this topic. It's weird. It's almost as if she's not really good at doing this thing, right?
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Just a little bit. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let me try that again. Well, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out and reading this objective trash. This it is a pleasure, man. I really do enjoy having you here, and your ability to break things down is and be so patient with it. That's what I really do appreciate. I mean, like most people, I feel like, okay, skip through and just can we go? Just go. Just
Yeah,
move.
it is bad. It is bad. I understand that feeling. Trust me.
Just
But
skip
yeah,
to the end and just say we don't like it. Yeah.
I had a great time, even though this was all crap. I had a great time going through it, and yeah, man. Every time we get to hang out and stuff, it's always fun. So yeah, I'm sure I'll be back.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. And this I'm probably going to release this in 2 parts. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
split it up a
Honestly,
little
it
bit.
makes sense. Yeah, you'll definitely need to give all the viewers and listeners a break. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's cool. I'll get it. That'll keep the feed going for a couple weeks. So that's all right. And then tomorrow you're gonna be on Left at the Valley, right?
Yeah, I'll be hanging out with you again. So
All right, cool. So everybody check out Left at the Valley, and then give us a quick plug of all the fun things you're doing.
yeah, I do a whole bunch of stuff. But in general, I can often be found on ACA call-in shows. So I was on like Truth Wanted just the other day. I do talk heathen mostly. I will be on Atheist Experience in a couple of weeks or something. I'm not positive, so I figured that out. But I also get to hang out weekly over at Atheist Republic. We do Q&As as well as just breaking down various apologists things and talking about terrible things that religions are doing all over the world. But yeah, you can also just find me a bunch of different really cool places. So I just pop up everywhere. So
I see. Holy shit. Well, hey, we got this sign off that we do where I say who we're gonna say fuck off to, and then we try to say fuck off together.
okay.
So what do we say to the haters, discriminators, and masturbator shamers?
Fuck
Fuck
off.
off. Wow, that was perfect.
We did good. We did good. I like it.
Very, very good. All right, y'all. Stay logical but loving, skeptical but